Hello, students! Today we're going to talk about something we see every day on our plates, food grains. From the rice in your biryani to the atta for your rotis, these are the foundation of what we eat in India. So let's explore the major food crops of our country. This is a very important topic, not just for our general knowledge, but especially for your examinations.
So, what's on the agenda today? First, we'll get a good grasp of India's cropping seasons. Then, we'll dive deep into our two main staples, rice and wheat. After that, we'll look at the super nutritious millets, and then the very useful crop, maize. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a summary to help you remember everything for your exams.
Okay, let's begin with our first section. You'll often hear that food grains are the backbone of Indian agriculture. But what does that really mean? Well, to understand that, we first need to look at our country's different cropping seasons. These seasons are the key to knowing what we can grow, where we can grow it, and when.
All right, let's look at the two main seasons. The first one is the Kharif season. Now, the easiest way to remember Kharif is to think of it as our monsoon crop. These crops are sown around June and July, right when the rains begin. Think of rice, maize, jowar, they all love the monsoon. On the other hand, we have the Rabi season. This is our winter crop. These are sown from October to December when it's cooler, and harvested in the summer. The best examples here are wheat and barley. It's really important to remember this difference. Kharif for monsoon, Rabi for winter.
Now let's move on to our first major crop. And really, it's the most important food crop in all of India. Can you guess what it is? Yes, it's rice. For a huge majority of Indians, rice is the staple food they eat every single day, so you can imagine just how important it is. Look at this picture. What you're seeing here are beautiful green fields of paddy. Now this is a word you must remember. Paddy is a name we use for the rice crop when it is still growing in the field before it gets harvested. And here's a very important fact for your exams. Did you know that India is the second largest producer of rice in the entire world? We're right behind China. That's a huge deal.
So what are the perfect conditions for growing rice? Well, first, remember it's a Kharif crop. That tells you a lot. It needs high temperatures, above 25 degrees Celsius, and high humidity. And most importantly, it needs a lot of water. We're talking about annual rainfall of over 100 centimeters. This is exactly why it grows so well during the monsoon. But what about places that have less rain? In areas like Punjab or Haryana, they can still grow rice, but only with the help of good irrigation systems.
Take a close look at this map. The areas marked in dark green are the major rice-producing parts of India. You can see the plains of the north and the northeast, the coastal areas, and, of course, the delta regions. Why here? Well, it's simple. These are the places that get that perfect combination of high temperature and heavy rainfall that rice loves.
Okay, we've talked about our main Kharif crop, rice. Now, let's switch gears and talk about our main Rabi, or winter crop. This is the second most important cereal crop in India, and it's the staple food for people in the northern and northwestern parts of our country. We're talking about wheat.
And this is what a field of wheat looks like. For many of you, this crop is very familiar. This is what gives us the atta, the flour that your mother uses to make hot, fluffy chapatis and rotis at home.
Now, the conditions needed for wheat are quite different from rice. Remember, it's a Rabi crop, so it needs a cool growing season. It doesn't need a lot of rain, just about 50 to 75 centimeters spread out over the season. But here's the really crucial part. At the time of ripening, it needs bright, uninterrupted sunshine. That warmth and sun is what makes the grain perfect for harvesting.
So, where do we find this perfect combination? Let's look at the map. You can clearly see the major wheat-producing states like Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and parts of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. The Ganga-Sutlej plains in the northwest and the black soil region of the Deccan are the two main wheat-growing zones in India.
All right, we've seen crops that need lots of water, like rice, and crops that need moderate water, like wheat. But what about the really dry parts of India? What grows there? Well, that's where our next category of crops, the millets, comes in. These are incredibly important and are known as coarse grains.
Now, though they are called coarse grains, please don't think they are not good for you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They have very high nutritional value. For example, ragi is extremely rich in iron, calcium, and other micronutrients. They are superfoods. The three most important millets grown in India are jowar, bajra, and ragi.
Here's a look at a field of bajra. Bajra is a perfect example of a hardy millet. It grows really well on sandy soils and in shallow black soil, which is why it's a major crop in states like Rajasthan.
This table is fantastic for your revision, so pay close attention. Let's quickly go through it. First, we have jowar. It's actually the third most important food crop in our country, and it's mostly grown in moist, rain-fed areas like in Maharashtra. Next is bajra, which we just saw. It thrives in sandy soils, so think Rajasthan. Finally, we have ragi. It's a crop of dry regions and is super rich in iron and calcium. You'll find it growing in states like Karnataka.
Okay, let's move on to our next crop, maize. Maize is a really interesting one because it's so versatile. It's a kharif crop that is used in two ways, both as food for us humans and as fodder, which is food for animals.
And here we can see farmers harvesting maize. I'm sure all of you recognize this. We know it as bhutta or corn on the cob, right? It's a very popular snack, especially during the rainy season.
So let's look at the key facts for maize. It's a kharif crop, but in some states like Bihar, it's also grown in the rabi season. It needs a temperature between 21 to 27 degrees Celsius and grows well in old alluvial soil. And a very important point is that with the use of modern inputs, things like high-yielding variety or HYW seeds, fertilizers, and irrigation, the production of maize has increased a lot in recent years.
And with that, we have covered the major cereals and millets of India. So let's do a quick summary of everything we've learned to make sure all the key points are fresh in your mind for your exams.
This table is your best friend for revision. It puts everything in one place. You can see the crop, its season, the temperature and rainfall it needs, and the major states where it's grown. So you can quickly compare rice, a kharif crop needing high rain, with wheat, a rabi crop needing moderate rain. This is a perfect snapshot of today's lesson.
So, to finish up, let's look at a typical question you might get in your exam. Describe the geographical conditions required for the growth of rice and name two major rice-producing states. Think about it. Based on what we discussed, how would you structure your answer? Try writing it down. This kind of practice is the best way to prepare. Thank you for your attention, and all the best.